Hello and welcome to our webinar. We're so pleased that so many of you can join us today. My name's Lee Colman. I'm Chief Production Officer at SBD Automotive, and I'll be your host and moderator for this panel. Today we're going to be discussing digital transformation of the fleet lease and rental sector, and specifically from the perspective of OEMs. I'll provide a few minutes of introduction to the topic, and then I'll introduce our panel. So today, the aftermarket dominates the fleet management services market. Aftermarket providers have rushed to serve heavy goods vehicles initially. Now those services have been filtering into light commercial vehicles and increasingly passenger vehicles run by fleet and lease operators. The global EMS market value is currently around 20 to 30 billion per year, and it's set to rise significantly sharply over the next few years to an estimated 40 billion in 2025 and still rising. However, most of that revenue is being collected by the aftermarket. Those software companies who typically operate SaaS models, who position themselves to retrofit devices to initially goods vehicles, increasingly light commercial vehicles, and now passenger cars. And there's a thriving aftermarket. OEM entrants have been many. Most that manufacture light commercial vehicles have attempted to penetrate the market with their own portal-based fleet management services. But as you can see here from this chart, the actual share of that market for the car companies and truck companies is quite minimal. Today's discussion is about what's changing in the world of OEM to maybe change that market share slightly in favor of OEMs. If we look at fleet management services by sector, on the left-hand side of the page, there are some differences in the needs by vehicle type. Typically, commercial vehicles need more advanced services like workflow management, comms and dispatch, perhaps driver analytics, as well as fuel, insurance and vehicle health management that can be of use on passenger vehicles. However, regardless of those service types, the building blocks are quite common among the services. So on the right-hand side of the page, it begins with data collection from the vehicles, harvested into the cloud and processed, and then presented as data visualization to the fleet. And those common building blocks are now very much in place at volume at car companies and truck companies. And so we'll be exploring what it would take to turn those building blocks into profitable product for the OEMs. One of those building blocks is cloud connectivity. If we look at passenger cars and light vehicles, penetration of connectivity, this chart shows how much of the leased vehicle population in US, Europe and China has a factory fitted SIM. And now that's likely to increase over the next 3 years, so that we're hitting about 95% penetration of factory fitted SIM in those leased vehicles. And that's an incredible level of connectivity. So something that we'll be considering is that ubiquity of connectivity going to act as a springboard for OEMs to take a greater role in fleet management services, or will the aftermarket still dominate? Another factor that needs to be considered is the move for most OEMs to adopt software-defined vehicle policies and architectures, both in hardware and software in the vehicle. This should, in principle, provide greater agility in software deployments and innovation that can keep pace with the aftermarket. But is that likely to become a reality? The building blocks don't necessarily mean that the OEMs will focus there. So we'll be pondering that question as well. Asking ourselves, will fleet managers' voices be heard by product planners at the OEMs, and can the OEMs respond quickly enough, even with the building block of software-defined vehicles? Finally, if we look at the way that OEMs are positioned to serve fleet managers, particularly in the lease and rental sector, there's a thriving independent sector, but there's also a very large OEM-owned fleet management sector, with companies like Alphabet, Altheon, and Free2Move forming quite a large market share of the lease market. Those companies, as well as the independents, are starting to launch fleet management solutions of their own, telematics products, some of them are termed. Will those manage to make any kind of impact in the aftermarket that we've talked about so far? So the overall question today is, can OEMs succeed in FMS? And we've got a great set of panelists to help us explore that question. So we have Michal from CARIAD, Pablo from IVECO Group, Roman from Grape, and I'll be the host of the session. Michal, perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we'll go around the table before starting our discussion.
Yeah, so as you already mentioned, my name is Michal. I am product owner at CARIAD, and I'm responsible for digital survey and mobility services. So generally, I'm responsible for cloud products that enable vehicles to for all online services and to be hosted on the platform.
Great, thank you. Pablo, would you like to go next?
Now, yeah, all right. Okay, yeah, my name is Pablo Arjonilla. First of all, thanks for having me today. I work for the next generation platform of the medium and heavy trucks in IVECO Group. And my main roles are to follow the technology roadmap and product portfolio. We also are prospecting future services portfolio. And also we are working out many open innovation streams, such as startup scouting and technology scouting in this way.
Great, thanks, Pablo. And Roman.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roman Swoszowski. I'm serving as VP for AI and Cloud R&D at Grape. Right now, focusing on developing the overall technology vision and how artificial intelligence, machine learning, and cloud-native technologies can help our customers from the automotive industry to further drive innovation in their for their businesses.
Great, thank you. So we've done a bit of prep discussion for this panel. I've been prepping for this panel for over 10 years. My background is in fleet management. Aftermarket actually, before joining SBD. So I'll put my first question to you, Pablo, if I may. As a truck maker, what do you think has been pushing the adoption of fleet management among your clients, and what's been fueling those great penetration rates that we've seen in the aftermarket?
Well, in our case, it's something quite obvious because, well, our main customers are fleet operators and 3PLs. So in the end, in the world of commercial vehicles, this technology has enabled lots of features that are bringing a huge value to the ecosystem. First of all, we can start with the digital platforms that, well, the interaction with customers has changed dramatically. So this is adding a lot of value to the services they're currently offering. And in terms of the rest of well, I could say we could start from efficiency. That normally is what they are most concerned about. And in this way, well, the TCO can be improved a lot through this kind of digital platforms and these fleet management systems. Think of, for example, like I mentioned, the smart routing features or the logistics processes optimization. Many innovations, such as the many-to-many matching, are really game changers in this way. And if we talk about competitiveness, any current fleet operator that is not working very close to these technologies can be let out of the game easily. Also, now that all the zero-emission vehicles are arriving, this can also make a huge difference, because every charging strategy, the energy management is really, really related to these fleet management systems. And the final feature I could mention, well, apart from what we have, the predictive maintenance too, that also is related to the TCO, and this is also obvious that you are saving a lot of money in this way. If you are applying also artificial intelligence solution, things are really, really changing. And finally, I would mention all the control and monitoring features that are enabled through these platforms, from the insurance relation to the driving style evaluation that you can have of your drivers. This way, you are killing two different parts of the game, because on the one hand, you can motivate and retain the drivers. That is something that this ecosystem is needing, and on the other hand, they can also improve their skills and monitor and improve in safety rates and KPIs. So in the end, it makes a huge difference.
So with the mature technology, the proven business impact of better TCO, the question is perhaps more likely, why would a fleet manager operating heavy vehicles not apply FMS
exactly.
to be competitive? If we look at those success factors that have driven the aftermarket, what do you think of the challenges that have faced OEMs, original manufacturers, in trying to participate in this sector?
Yeah. Well, you have previously mentioned on your presentation, we are struggling a lot against these software as a service companies, because, well, in the one hand, think that the fleet operators normally are brand agnostic. So in this way, it's quite difficult, the adoption for them in terms of a digital platform that only works for your brand. It's pointless in this way. So the first thing we are working out, all the different OEMs, is the compatibility with the different brands to generate more than specific platform, also to create APIs that can be compatible with the different digital ecosystems that the fleet operators are managing. Also, some other requests that we receive from the software as a service providers are the capacity and latency of the telematics of our vehicles. We are pursuing real time, and this is something that is arriving, but is not still in place to have a really, really low latency in this way. But we are working, all the OEMs are working on this, and we are making a lot of improvements there. Also, I can think about also another challenges more related to the data ownership, because in the end, all of us want to make money out of this data. We want to monetize all the data we are gathering. And there are some problems or issues related to the GDPR or even cybersecurity arise. Finally, I could also mention some trouble related to the differences in methodology, because, well, traditionally, OEMs were not into the agile game, and these software as a service providers are agile native. So we have been doing a lot of improvements, and now all our digital side is managed through agile methodology.
Yeah, as you say, agile native is really how the aftermarkets come to this sector. I think your first point about a certain level of protectionism within the industry about launching brand-only solutions was a very hard way to learn the lesson that fleet managers don't want single brand solutions. I think that the corner has been turned on that now, and most brands seem to realize that it has to be open. You spoke about the capacity and trying to reduce the latency. What do you think? What are the barriers to changing parameters like latency that face OEMs at the moment, and what do you think might be changing there?
What do you mean that might be changing? Do you mean that?
Well, is there any hope? Yes.
Yeah.
What's the problem at the moment with latency, and how might better progress be made there, do you think?
Sure, we are improving all our telematics. It's basic. In every new release we are launching in the market, we are improving our telematics blocks with huge steps between one another, and everything is changing in this way. There's a huge difference between the products that we will launch next year compared to the product that we already have today. So this is improving day by day because it's a need that we must cover. It's basic for this to stay really competitive in this new digital system. Exactly.
Great, thank you. Michal, if I could pull you in at this stage, at CARIAD you're seeing the needs of multiple clients. You have many brands in the group that you're serving. Can you tell us a bit about how you prioritize the needs of those groups and how you plan your kind of near-term, long-term strategy for these kind of services?
So I think it's a very multi-level question because, of course, we have many internal clients within our OEM. As you mentioned, different brands with different expectations, different markets, and different target groups at the end of the day. And of course, we have also fleet clients, and these are companies that are not necessarily our internal companies, but also external ones using our products at the end of the day. And of course, short term, we try to identify what are the main pain points of our clients, so where we can help, what are the things that are struggling with every day. Like, for example, vehicle enrollment, where every company expects that there is a common configuration, for example, some functions available, what data may be transferred to the backend, which data is from the, because of security guidelines of every specific company, not allowed to be sent to the backend. And if we don't offer a good solution for that, if a fleet manager needs to configure, let's say, every single vehicle on its own, and if he has 200 or 300 vehicles in his responsibility, it's almost no go for a business because the maintenance costs are just too high, and it costs also time that can be invested in different things and different tasks. So it's short term, I would say, and of course another problem that we have with different brands that if we have several functions available on boards of these vehicles, that can be used in very different way. So now let's say if we have staying at CARIAD or at Volkswagen Group, if we have a fleet client with some products from Skoda, with some products from Seat, and with some products from Volkswagen, and let's say fleet manager wants to use remote lock unlock because this function can help if there's any cleaning service that wants to have an access during a day to 200 vehicles. Then of course you don't want to take a key of every single vehicle to go together with the with some people from this cleaning service to open every single vehicle, and to have a risk that maybe your vehicle will be misused, because if you have a key, then you can use the vehicle without any control just as you want. And then of course you have, for now, unfortunately, no guarantee that remote lock unlock works in the same way in for every brand. So then again, you need to find a solution that kind of abstraction that offer you to use some several functions in one unified way. And long term, of course, it's more about a strategic. We want to we plan everything towards one platform. So we want to have one solution for any for all the brands, for all the products. We want to have one solution that can be adapted also for different brands. So something similar to diagnostics that already works, at least in Europe, with OBD standard. That you know that there's a basic of diagnostics that works for every brand. And it doesn't matter if you take a diagnostic tool from Volkswagen or Opel or any other brand, because you know that there's a package of functions or a package of data that will work for you with solution from every OEM. Exactly, and important thing, I know we are running out of time, but important thing is, of course, that you have a solution that is backward compatible and that can be easily adapted for new generations planned already now.
So it sounds like a fairly easy job that you've got then, taking care of that lot. I mean, just that point on having different fleet managers using different brands. You've outlined the problem statement quite nicely there. You don't want to make life difficult for them. It has to be seamless. What kind of practical solutions can you put together as a platform to make sure that some of those concerns are addressed, like a fleet manager managing 200 vehicles across different brands, but maybe adopting a common platform? Tell us a bit more about that if you could.
So of course our target is to make a vehicle kind of smartphone on 4 wheels, and I think that's the direction that we want to go. So similar to what we already know from mobile devices world, what we already have in Android world and in iOS world. And additionally, we know that no OEM is able to identify all the needs of every single market and to be able to provide the best solution for every single function. So we are quite sure the only way for us to go in the future is to cooperate with different partners that have their expertises in some maybe small areas, but where they are working already since years, where we know, okay, they can help us. And let's even say easy example with Google and Google Maps. So I think it's a very good solution, and I'm not sure if any OEM is able, or if it even makes sense from a cost perspective, to develop a solution which should be at least as good as Google Maps. But we can use the solution already. So we need to offer a kind of marketplace, a kind of base where all the third parties can connect and can develop their own solutions and be connected to this OEM world, so that we don't create a closed world where only OEM can develop something and publish something, because in this way we will provide very expensive products that are, let's say, not the best ones on the market.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, I guess differentiate where you can, but integrate where you should. Roman, if I can bring you in at that point, you've got great history in working with different software partners, trying to get parties working together. How do you see OEMs and third-party software partners working in this space of fleet services?
So first of all, I think that OEMs know how to build cars, and third-party software providers like us, like Grape, we know how to build software. So combination of those two areas of expertise can really help materialize this software-defined vehicle concept. To be able to enable SDV, you need to connect edge and the cloud, edge being the vehicle, and cloud, all the cloud services, backend services that the car, the vehicle is communicating with. So this is the essential part to enable software-defined vehicles, and also build, of course, all those additional digital products and features on top of that. Of course, this is not the only thing that we can bring to the table, not just software development skills, because of course OEMs also, they do develop software. However, by working with many different customers from the automotive industry, we have really learned the automotive landscape. We understand it, I would say, very well. Not only the present one, but also we are trying to look a bit ahead in the future, to try to think, to conceptualize what could be useful or important in the coming years. So we also bring those new ideas and concepts to the table, and those ideas and concepts we are able to craft and validate within our in-house automotive innovation lab. About how digital technologies, how software solutions can further enhance the automotive value chain. And as a third thing, I would say that we are also aware of the this long-lived manufacturing cycle that is present in the OEM's world. So what is conceptualized today will be brought probably within 5-7 years. Sometimes it's a bit quicker, but basically it's a long way to go. Therefore, we aim for this long-term cooperation with our customers and in this value-aligned partnership, so that we can not only build a single service or a single piece of software for the OEM, but go with them through the whole value chain to really ensure that they can eventually deliver that value for their customers. So I would say these are the 3 most important aspects through which OEMs and third-party providers can work together on this SDV innovation.
So a couple of really interesting points there. Similar to what Pablo was mentioning earlier, the agility that is being kind of sought within our OEMs, where manufacturing cycles can be quite long. Having been a product manager in a fleet telematics company before joining SBD, I had the luxury of waking up one morning with an idea and pretty much having a proof of concept later in the day if I needed to. If we had to respond to bugs in the field or requests from really important clients, we could get software released by the end of the week. Continuous integration, continuous deployment. I won't claim that it was always perfectly validated before it hit market though. So I think the aftermarket can run at an incredible speed. We've got OEMs that want to run at speed but maintain quality and certainly the robustness of software. Right, but what's your experience of marrying those 2 worlds together? That ultimate agility of same day releases almost, or at least at the end of the current sprint, with the OEM hallmark of quality.
I think the essential thing is that this driving this towards the more and more separation of hardware and software, right? Originally, that was something that so in the vehicles, the software was embedded into the hardware parts and pieces, and the whole software-defined vehicle idea and concept goes into the direction of, well, not isolating, of course, those 2 aspects, but separating them in a way that, well, on one hand side, we can still, or OEM can still focus on quality, safety, all those very important things, which are the essence of the vehicle itself. But at the same time, that does not block or hamper this fast and very agile way of building software, and the need for changes that must be introduced very, very quickly, right? So if we are able to get into a situation where hardware and software in the car can be developed independently, or let's say in parallel, but in the not exactly the same pace, I think this is what would enable introducing faster changes and adapting to those needs of changing world and customers.
In a safe way, as you say, that there's so much more hardware that the OEM can change compared to a retrofit device that the fleet manager is looking after. A lot more complexity there. Pablo, does that resonate with your experiences of getting those faster releases out and trying to innovate?
Totally, because, well, in the end, Roman is totally right. In the end, if you cannot jeopardize the classic waterfall GPD process. So in the end, what we are doing, or every OEM will tell you this, is precisely that, to separate the different waves of the software releases from the product release itself. In this way, everything works, and it's really, really agile because you can move really fast. In the software side, you can iterate in the different solutions that we provide, and also we can learn from the process while the product is being developed. So in the end, is the natural way of doing things now.
Yeah, so you're kind of separating that slow cycle from the faster cycle that the software has to take. Michal, you mentioned before about making platforms that can handle multiple brands and so on. Obviously, VW Group has not just LCVs in the product lineup, but many passenger vehicles. What do you think are going to be the common building blocks among those vehicles? It could be in the vehicle or the back end that might start to progress passenger vehicle application of fleet as well as LCV.
So for us, at the end of the day, from the software perspective, we see only the platform. So even now, we still have no single platform in our world, but we see only vehicle as platforms. So for example, old generation with Golf 7 and so on, with old Passat, it's one platform generation. ID family with new EV vehicles, it's another platform. And that is for us, from the IT perspective, the only differentiation. Our target is, of course, our goal is first to have two ways that we can develop hardware on one side, and separately we can develop a software. Not that we have here dependencies that software is waiting for some specific deadlines for hardware to be provided. I think it's a huge challenge because still vehicle is a very specific product, and agility is not an answer for everything in the automotive world. And to be honest, I don't believe that you can develop vehicle as a hardware in an agile way, because you need to have a SOP. There are some tests that must be made, and vehicle is a very complex product, even if we don't think about it, because it's something it's a common thing for us every day. But it's still very complex, and there are really many aspects that I don't want to name here, but there are many aspects you need to consider during the development. And now, software, the development of software is completely different. Of course, every OEM needs to learn how to develop software. So I'm here by Roman. There are some companies developing software and only software since 30-40 years. So they are for sure much better than we in software development, but I think no one understands vehicle as a whole product as good as OEM, and we need to combine these worlds.
Yes, I liked what you said there about these are just platforms to you as a if it's a cloud platform, a vehicle platform, an EV skateboard, whatever it might be, they can run at different speeds. They have different functional safety requirements. Some are ripe for innovation because they're not sort of negatively impacting the safety of the vehicle.
What I wanted to add, because we talked about passenger vehicles and bigger ones. So of course, if you have one platform, then we don't need to think about it. Okay, it's one vehicle and it needs this package of functions, but we have a platform where we can easily assign some specific functions to every vehicle. Because even small passengers vehicles can be used as fleet vehicles, for example.
Yeah. So the aftermarket has been less keen to adopt or to position themselves as service providers towards passenger vehicles, because typically the use case isn't viable if you're retrofitting devices, connectivity devices, to a passenger car for a less valuable service stack. But as I mentioned in the introduction, with connectivity, cloud services, data processing being ubiquitous or becoming ubiquitous across vehicles, do you think that we might be entering an era where wide-scale adoption of fleet services on passenger vehicles in the lease and rental sector becomes viable? We've taken a lot of cost out of that model compared to the aftermarket by standard fitment. We're talking about agile software development for those kind of services. Are there any other building blocks that we need for there to be a transformation in the way that those services could be applied to passenger vehicles? So shall I give the first views on that one, Michal?
Yeah, so it was the question for me. So the goal is indeed to reduce, first of all, maintenance efforts on the client side, and with software platforms, we have now a possibility we never had in the past, because in the past the development of vehicles were closed after some specific period of time, and then there's nothing more you can change on the hardware side. Currently, even if development of a new generation of vehicles takes us, let's say, 5 up to 7 years, we know we can put into there some solutions, some electronic devices, some hardware, which can be adapted and which can be changed and designed with continuous development and integration. So it means that we built for us a platform where we can offer solutions, let's say 5 years after SOP, so start of production of a single vehicle, because currently we don't know what will happen in 5 years and what will be the biggest pain point of our clients in 5 years. But having a platform that allows us to adapt very quickly, we'll be able to provide solutions almost immediately.
So obviously there are cost-based decisions to be made when planning those platforms. Can you give us a bit of insight into how those are handled? If we can see that there is maybe some revenue opportunity here, if we count the whole industry, it's huge. If you don't have certainty as a brand or as a group that we'll be able to charge this many euros for this service, and we estimate the penetration at this, can you build a flexible platform and hope that you kind of come across that viability later in the game? Is that the way it's working now with divisions like CARIAD, would you say?
So I can say it's our current situation. It's definitely our target situation. So it's where we want to be one day, and I think we are making progress every day. But you're right. So first, flexible platform. Of course, it's a very, very wide expression that can be understood in many different ways. So if you should ask this question to our audience, I'm not sure if we would have two answers that are the same. However, of course, what we want to achieve is that, first of all, it doesn't matter which product from our group you buy, you can use this platform, you can adapt on this platform, and you can connect to third parties in a very quick and very, very easy way.
Great. And mentioning third parties there, I just want to pull Roman back in again, because we talked earlier on about this, integrating these worlds together. If you were working with a product manager in an OEM, let's say, and they said, I really want to become more active in fleet services, what's your IT prescription for them? How do you make sure that they're packaging for the future?
So of course, the first thing they would need to be able to enable this kind of services is the connectivity part. But like you mentioned in the beginning, this is already becoming a standard for almost all new vehicles. So the ability to send and receive data. However, this is just the very low level part. Of course, we need those additional building blocks on top of that. So first of all, the ability within the vehicle to collect the data, the telematics data, and then transfer them in a secure and reliable way to the corresponding cloud backend. So this is where the connected car platforms might be of use, and we are already seeing. I wouldn't say standardization, but the movement towards creating some reusable blocks, let's say, in terms of technology, in terms of tools, solutions that might be used to create this layer. Next, on top of that, once we have the connectivity between the vehicle and the cloud, of course, we need to do something reasonable with the data we have collected. And this is actually that actually depends on what type of services or what type of products we would like to build for a specific use case or for a given case. Again, in this layer, we have a lot of ready products from those aftermarket fleet FMS providers, but if OEM would like to build this part for themselves, they would need to again consider what particular use case they would like to address, because like Michal said earlier, not all the vehicles are the same. Not all the vehicles are used in the very same way. So even if we are talking just passenger vehicles, right? There are different segments, different types, categories, and so on. So ideally, it would be great if we had just one unified solution, one unified platform that, depending on the particular vehicle type, could enable this or that service, right? However, that might be maybe not impossible, but very difficult as a very first step. So I would say, okay, let's identify those use cases that are the most that bring the biggest value and are easiest in terms of feasibility, and focus there, right?
Yeah. Right, we covered quite a lot of ground there. I'm going to attempt here to summarize some of the conversation so far, and then maybe take some questions from those that have joined us. So some really high-level themes here of abstracting the software from the hardware allows elements of the hardware to run faster than certain other streams can. I think, Michal, you put that quite nicely when you gave us that analogy of different platforms. Whether it's an EV platform or a cloud service, they can run at different speeds, and different considerations need to be made for the speed that they can run at to maintain that OEM level of quality. Roman, you just mentioned reaching deep into the vehicle, and I think that is potentially one of the differentiators that OEMs can make. You know, not all signals are available on the OBD port. There are some really useful sensors that could really help fleet managers improve their businesses, and the aftermarket won't always have access to those sensors as easily as the OEM will, at least. So reaching deep into the vehicle, but we're trying to handle an awful lot of diversity here in an absence of kind of standardized data sets. So the ability to sort of reuse blocks and join them together to integrate those kind of diverse systems of systems seems like an ongoing challenge. Anything you guys would like to chip into that summary before we just move into questions for the audience? Okay, in that case, let's see what questions might be coming up. Any questions coming through on the chat here? Okay, got one here. Okay, so there's a question coming about the diversity of applications that fleet managers might be looking for. Different types of fleets, so rentals, gig drivers, etc. Is the technology mature enough for OEM application for those services today? And are we going to see go-to-market for those kind of applications? So I'll try and summarize that a little bit more cleanly. So different verticals like gig drivers, rental companies wanting to apply OEM technology to enable these fleet solutions. Essentially, how quickly are the OEMs going to get us to providing those solutions, I think is the question. But I'll put that first of all to you, Pablo. The heavy truck industry has been working for the longest in fleet. When do you think that it's a really flexible product? I mean, perhaps not to gig drivers, but to multi-brand fleets that OEMs are contributing to?
Well, to be honest, this is something that I could say that we already have in place, okay? Because in the end, we have been working this out since many years ago. In fact, in our particular case, we have what we call the control room, in which we are giving service to lots of fleets, of different fleets. It's not strictly real time, but it's close to that. And in this way, from there, we can enable lots of features on the vehicle through the telematics and the software-defined features that we have already in place in the vehicle. And we are talking about the technology that will be totally renewed in a couple of years or so. No, next year. So this is something that I could say that most part of the OEMs already have in place.
So we're in the moment, really. Another question's come up on that theme, actually, about do all the OEMs have this kind of software strategy in terms of integrating, insourcing or outsourcing software development? I guess we can't answer for all of the OEMs. We've got broad representation of the VW group in IVECO, but as observers of the industry, do you think that most vehicle manufacturers are moving towards this software and hardware abstraction that would allow them to participate perhaps more quickly in fleet applications?
Well, from my point of view, this is exactly what they should be doing, because otherwise they would be swimming in the opposite direction. In the end, the value contribution that software as a service company could bring to OEMs is really, really high. So otherwise they are not, from my point of view, always, this is just an opinion, but based on my experience, the contribution from these external third parties is huge. So why not?
Yeah, I completely agree. As an analyst of the industry as a whole, it'd be very difficult to point to an OEM or group that wasn't adopting a more flexible software strategy. That has some challenges in it. Obviously, you've got to refactor a load of existing software for not a lot of gain in the short term, but the level of control that's achievable through that abstraction, I think, is a well understood strategy within the industry now. I think the question now is how to get there quickly without reinventing too many wheels. And those building blocks that you were talking about, Roman, I think that's where many players in the industry are trying to work out, shall I buy that? Shall I build that? Shall I back two horses and build a little bit, buy a little bit? Michal, you've got probably more experience of us than most of us there in that kind of integrate, build, buy. This is the world of CARIAD. Maybe you could give some of your perspectives on that.
So of course, I think the most important thing we need to say is that no OEM is able to provide a software that is able to be an answer for every problem that may appear on a customer side. So there's a line where we say, okay, that's all we can do. That if you have, for example, a big client with, let's say, 500 vehicles from many OEMs, and if you want to have easy, for example, maintenance tracking, so with automation for service appointment, I don't think that one company or one OEM is able to provide a solution combines all the brands where, for, let's say, software from one OEM is talking to garages from completely different OEM. Maybe it will be possible one day, but I don't see this way as a short-term solution. So that's why I use already many times the phrase platform and third parties, because what I expect is that we don't provide maybe a solution for every problem with this platform, but we offer a place with appropriate tools, which allows other teams, other companies to help their specific clients. because of course what we can offer is if we have, let's say, small clients using only products from our OEM, then we can basing on cost reduction and so on, then of course we can say, okay, we know we provide you 10 vehicles from brand Volkswagen, then you may expect that we provide you an online solution to do the whole maintenance enrollment, that you don't need to pay for the development of the solution any additional money. But of course, there's always somewhere a red line where we have to say, okay, we provide you tools, but we are not able to develop everything.
And I think maybe that's a nice sort of sentiment to end on. Actually, looks like we've handled the questions that have come in. What you were saying about thinking about how you can serve the client more, whether that's an internal client within the group, Michal, or it's the end user of the services, the fleet manager. So rather than seeing this as a competitive fight against the aftermarket, maybe if the OEMs and the software partners are looking to how to serve those end users better and really provide a differentiated service, knowing that not one size fits all. It seems that the building blocks are starting to come in place now with the abstraction of software and this approach to agility, where those clients might be better served by OEMs than they've ever been able to before. So it seems like a good point to be optimistic. And with that focus on clients, I think that's probably a good note to end on. Any other questions before we close, guys? Any other comments? Okay, well, I'd like to thank our panelists for their insights during this webinar. Really interesting. I could carry on for hours talking about this topic. And many thanks to everyone who was able to join. There will be a white paper distributed in the coming days to everyone that registered, so that you can find out more of the insights and perhaps follow up with further questions. Many thanks. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.